Okay, I should be fully cut over. Okay, so I wanted to do the Bob report just because a lot's happened this month. Even though it was break from Pendragon, it gave me a lot of opportunity to really look at what's in store. You know, we tried something new. For the first time ever, we brought kind of more than just a one-shot type people in to run games. And the outcomes were pretty much bang on what I expected. You know, by expected, I mean what my analysis told me they might be. But I'm going to quickly just pull up a document so you can see what I'm talking about. For those that don't know, I did 3 Pendragon games concurrently, all set in the same universe. One set in Wales, one set in Somerset, and one set in Salisbury. So 2 in England, 1 in Wales. Let me just see if this... Oh, it's still got me in the wrong name. Hold on. Let me just see if I can fix that. Yeah, it certainly has been the wrong name. Okay, one sec. It's almost like it forgot what I had changed it to. So just let me just change that. Okay, that should all be done now. Okay, so the 3 Pendragon games, we closed the chapter that we had there, and now we're doing some new stuff. I'll talk about it. I can't multitask, so let me just let me get the window capture set on the right thing here. And then let's go ahead and drop that. All right, so didn't need to do that. There we go. Okay, so what we ended up doing in October, we brought in Matthew Dawkins to run Crown of Thorns, which is a vampire. Weird how that crosses through my face. It's interesting. Okay, a vampire. The Dark Ages. Small or short game, so 3 episodes. We hoped it would go well, and it did. We have just short of like 15,500 right now. I anticipate it will continue to sort of chug along until it hits 16k, 20k maybe. We'll see. That's episode 1. Episode 2 hit over 5k. Episode 3 is struggling to get 500. That's pretty standard with actual plays. They just drop off and off and off. It doesn't mean that it won't continue to accumulate over time. I mean, it only was 3 episodes, so people will probably casually come back and participate, and that's perfectly fine. So we've got the Dawkins Crown of Thorns, and I'll come back to that because that's a big one. We did the Roll for Wishes, and we did 2 of these. So part 1 was called Open the Gates, which was a Pendragon game run by Liam, and featuring David Larkins of Chaosium as a player. That was super fun. And then we had Roll for Wishes part 2, and that was what would we call that? I forget what the title was, but it was a Daggerheart one shot run by Cyberbro, featuring Monty Glue of the Unexpectables, and just Monty Glue on here as well. So that's cool. Like those are good. And then finally we had Delta Green, and that was run by Trent. and add Thomas and I as players. And there's not really a featuring there. Delta Green was a ton of fun. If that continues to collect interest, because I know some games do, then I would like to bring that back. But it has to do well. Like, it has to do better than what it's doing right now. The Roll for Wishes events, those were short. We'd really hoped to have much better turnout for, I set 500 for the target. We only hit 100, which is surprising given what we had there. But I think times are just harder. Money's tighter internationally right now, and that might have led to it. We also didn't do anything fancy. Like, we didn't do like mini games or like, here's your reward, or donate for this. Those would have worked quite well, but that's okay. Carrying on, we returned to Pendragon, and I want to talk about that first, because that is still kind of our flagship. It's our main community, at least right now. We might have changed that demographic slightly with Crown of Thorns success, but for right now, it is definitely the main demographic. And we have 2 of the 3 games coming back. So Return to Pendragon, Salisbury will be known as the Boy King, and it will follow Willow. It'll follow Arthur, Merlin, and those loyal knights who become part of the Round Table. So they'll still have their moments in Salisbury, but it'll be a little bit more not scripted. It's just the emphasis will be around who this boy is. And to be fair, we've built up for 4 chapters now. So we're on chapter 5. We've built up for 4 chapters now on how important this idea of the right king, how the land and the king are tied together. We've seen the land overgrown when Uther was sick. We've seen other instances of other threats like the Saxons. So we know that a king with some authority is important, but there's also that notion of a king who cares, a king who is just and righteous, and I think that's what Arthur is to me, and that's what the Boy King is for me. And it doesn't mean all the characters and players have to buy into that, but it's gonna be fun to see that this is a big shift. This is a shift out of might makes right to might for right. It's a shift of sort of gray knights, I guess, selfish knights, glory seeking knights, bloodthirsty knights, to kind of more chivalrous knights. Doesn't mean every character is going to be that way, but it's going to be fun to see the shift and the rise of Arthur. I'm looking forward to that. We have Summerland, and Summerland will be called The Land and the King. And it will follow sort of an early gentrification in the land of pagan practices and unseelie courts. So why? I mean, I don't want to overshare this. This is the game of secrets, where Salisbury's game tends to be the game where a lot of secrets are left unknown because they're not mages, they're not wizards, they're not magicians like Merlin. they don't necessarily know, they don't have the site, so they don't have a lot of the answers to the mysteries. So for them in Salisbury, it's a lot of taking Merlin at his word or not when it comes to the mysteries. For Summerland, it'll be seeing behind the scenes of what's happening in Salisbury, seeing sometimes like the bad side of it, but not necessarily the bad side of it. Like, I don't want to give the impression that it's like, oh, everything can be looked at differently through two different views. I think to some degree that's always in my game, but I think for hey, Dr. Fun, I can't believe I just said that out loud. Yeah, so I think what we're looking at right now is, what does it look like for Summerland? And we know that they were constantly under invasion during Anarchy. This would be like them finding a sense of peace and prosperity again, even if there's this looming threat of Christianity taking away the secret practices of the Magician King's land. So Summerland I should now call Somerset. So it is called the Land and the King for a reason. There will be references to how the land and the king tie in together, and there's more than one, and I think you'll enjoy that piece. When we talk about guests, trying something new / again. I mean, we did this a little bit. We had AP Gaming Reel. I should shout him out. He came in and played Duke Gorlow for us, the King of Cornwall, and he made that whole Uther versus Cornwall arc super interesting by having it not be yet another NPC I play, by having this like guest NPC role, that they got to like the character, and when they had to like fight him in battle, they were like shaken by it. It was like they're like a mentor to them, and that was super cool. So, and we also brought in Gary, who played the role of Syagrius. That was his most prominent role. Syagrius, the praetor, responsible for the death of Prince Madoc, claims the poisoning at the infamous feast. Regardless of whether that was done by his hand or not, he was ruthless, and the praetor was dealt with in Anarchy. So we may see Gary return. He had another character, Ulmier, who is the second son of Duke Ulfius. So Ulfius is a friend of Uther's. I'm getting way off course, so let me rope us back in. I'm going to be bringing in more guests to play pivotal characters, or not pivotal, but important characters, named characters, in some cases named characters. I will note that there are not many female names of importance that are interesting and carry on in a lot of ways. So we have to get creative in the Somerset game a bit more, or we'll have more lady type characters. We'll be seeing them, and when I say lady, it doesn't just mean female. Ladies are ladies of the court. That's like their noble role. So we will see a number of faces that will be playing, some of them named characters, some original characters that we've created, all with a purpose though. Where Salisbury will be a lot about following Arthur around in his early days, or fighting for Arthur, or doing things for Arthur, or your Earl in Salisbury. Somerset will be back to that. We used to joke that we were aiming for like a Bridgerton or Pride and Prejudice vibe to it. So that gentrification of Somerset will be kind of a major part of that. We figured out this mechanic around correspondence, so we'll have like these scenes and beats around how they interact with each other, in correspondence rather than in person. And I think that'll be a lot of fun. So the biggest guest name, as far as characters go anyways, is we have Professor Tone coming over from Mortal Rolls. I should shout that out. Tone will be playing both Balan and Balin. So Balan and Balin are twins. They're of Savage, Le Savage, or Le Savage, depending. We will see what happens. It'll be fun. He's going to be playing Balin on Tuesdays, and we'll follow Balin on Sundays. So Sundays in Salisbury, Tuesdays in Somerset. And the reason I put them in that structure is because Balin will be more immediate and Balin will be down the road a little bit. So I think that more or less covers off what I'm doing with Pendragon coming up. So that'll all kick back off starting Sunday the 9th. Sunday the 9th and 11th? Does that sound right? Yep. So, yeah. Sunday the 9th and, Tuesday. So expect more of that. So our Friday game, Nintelli's Legacy, has concluded. Does that mean Friday's no Pendragon? For now. So we may go back to it. We likely will go back to it. But everyone agreed that it was such a nice wrap up of a story and without a lot of the players having like old heirs yet, because they just started. They only had 15 years and no one had kids immediately. So we will likely go back to it. But for now, we will be doing a Hyborian Age style game using World of Darkness mythology as the backdrop. So when I say this probably sounds really weird, but if you really look into, like, especially vampire, but a lot of the mythology in World of Darkness, it's really set around, like, they claim Atlantis exists. It's a lot of the same things. Oh, hey, Daggerheart campaign based on Xenoblade. Nice. Good to hear, Dr. Funnet. So Nintelli's Legacy will be no more. We're going to do this Hyborian Age World of Darkness game. You know, if you look up the Hyborian Age, it says it's basically a time before the deluge, before the flood. And that lines up really well with, like, a lot of the mythology aspect of World of Darkness setting. So I thought, what an interesting thing to try. And we'll see how that works. So you can see that starting... we're going to do session 0 February 7th. Okay. Continuing on, so that brings back my 3 main games. Now we get to talk about what we're doing from here. I should start with John Wick's. So originally we had announced, or at least soft announced, that John Wick will be the game designer, not the international assassin, will be running Legend of the Five Rings for us. Postponed until next year, 2026 sometime. Just didn't work out. We were running out of time. We weren't able to get together enough to communicate about it, so we're going to put that off. However, Paula Deming will be running a 2-shot for us here of Call of Cthulhu, and that will take place in December. We just changed the dates, so let me just pull that up. I want to say it's the 3rd and the 17th. But I will fact check that. But just know that we have Paula Deming, who is well known. I keep forgetting to shout out people. I was going to shout out someone before John. Who was it? I forget. Anyways, we'll shout out Paula. So Paula is, you might know her from her involvement in the Glass Cannon Network and a whole bunch of stuff like that. She will be coming in to join us, and the Lollygaggers, Jeff from the Lollygaggers, will be joining us for that one. So that'll be really exciting. I'm looking forward to that. All right. So that's in December. In January, we will be running a short series of Song of Ice and Fire role-playing. Set in the era of the Night of the Seven Kingdoms. Because HBO's show will be launching in January. So we're going to line it up with that. We're going to have a nice little intrigue fest set in Westeros, set in Game of Thrones setting. And it will be interesting to see how that goes. So stay tuned for that. So now I'm going to go back a little bit and talk about something in November. So our Crown of Thorns game did so well, and we brought in so many vampire fans. Like, I'm talking probably 30% of my subscriptions have come from that game. It pushed me over into like full partner. I was already partnered kind of partially on YouTube, but I hadn't hit the 1,000 subscriber mark. I have now, thanks to that game. So we want to make sure that we build a bridge to the players that probably are here for Crown of Thorns and Crown of Thorns Season 2 eventually. And we want to build a bridge because we know that's not going to happen immediately, to something vampire, specifically something that would feel like a good bridge. So in November, we're going to be running at the end of November a Dark Ages game. And I might be able to share with you a little bit of a statement about it without explaining it, because I don't want to spoil. I want it to be a fun little exploration, let's say. Okay. You wake to the sound of distant bells. The shutters glow with light, pale, weak, impossible. It brings no pain, but it brings great unease. Outside, the soldiers argue whether it's dawn or dusk. The air smells of ash and rain. The world muted, as though God is holding his breath. And for the first time since your embrace, you rise under the sun that does not burn. So this will be a game set in a very specific part of Dark Ages, the real Dark Ages too, not the Middle Ages. So it's going to be a little bit further back. It's going to deal with an event, an anomaly that was recorded in history that we can only speculate about nowadays, and I think that'll be really fun. It will be set at the edge of the Kingdom of Bulgaria and the Eastern Roman Empire. So we will be bringing back Ree and Zach. I will be storytelling that game. We are bringing in Mark of the Cat's Meow. There we we go. Whew. I had to guess if that was right. So we'll be bringing back Mark from the Cat's Meow Show. And then our fourth is tentative. I think I'll announce it just because I'm that guy. But just keeping, this is not set in stone. She just sounds really interested, so very likely to bring her in. We are likely to bring in Emmelind. She is a streamer on here. I will try to shout her out once the timer allows me to do so. Emmelind is also on another... let me just look up the name of it. She was on Magi RPG, playing a one-shot of Vampire. I'm certain she's been on a whole bunch more, but that's where I ran into her. So that's probably why I'm using that one as a reference. She was on Love Bites. So if you're familiar with Vampire and Miss Magitech, she was one of the players on Love Bites, and I think she cameoed a few other places on Magi RPG. So Emmelyn's tentative. We are going to confirm that fourth spot. If you can tell by my speech, I'm actually really tired all of a sudden, so I'm probably coming off a little bit less articulate than normal. All right, so what did we learn from Crown of Thorns? Observation 1. My YouTube is bigger than my Twitch. I don't know why. I stream everything. I put up my VODs on YouTube. Actually, I do know why. I have talks over there, and the talks do a lot better. Crown of Thorns, everyone, we got 350 subscribers from Crown of Thorns. That's massive. That would put me in the 700s on YouTube, or on Twitch, I mean. So, just factoring all that in, Matthew Dawkins is YouTube based. Dawkins is YouTube based. We have Lore by Night in that game. He's YouTube based. So I think it was just all the right ingredients for that. But that is an observation. It's something I've been dealing with for a while. Is I know what levers to pull to get my YouTube to grow. My Twitch is a grind, and that's okay. I've started to realize, and then we'll go into observation 2, there is a difference in a good live performance versus a good VOD. What do I mean by this? Okay, so if you are a streamer, you might actually be interested in this concept. It's possible, first off, if you're famous, it doesn't matter. You're just going to have fans that follow you everywhere. So you can just pump out stuff. I'm not saying they don't put high quality stuff out, but they don't have to worry about trying to get people to enter their front door. If they're a market, if they're a shop on a street, they're not worrying about getting people in their front door to even consider buying their product. People are going to wander into the front door in lots of them because they're already a well-known thing. For small fries, we got to figure out how to get people in. How do you get people in a live show on Twitch or even YouTube? Involves chat interaction. You're wanting to set up all sorts of ways to make it feel really interactive with the chat. It's why the best streamers are so good at just talking to themselves. It keeps you very engaged, right? It makes for less good VODs, though. You don't want to necessarily watch someone interact with their live chat when you're not there. a lot of time with VODs, it's almost consumed like an audio, podcast or something. It's like for actual plays anyways. You put it on, you go do some other stuff, maybe playing a video game, or you go do the dishes or whatever you're doing, and you listen. It's a little different. I mean, you can do that with live too. I'm just pointing out like distinct differences. That brings us to observation 3. By the way, I just popped a Tums, if you're wondering why I'm randomly eating. So observation 3 is people liked our highly edited and chopped VOD of Crown of Thorns. So we got lots of praises about the editing. Did I do anything wild? Not really. I figured out a formula that would work using software that I pay money for. But it's to the point now where what that software brought me. I'm going to bring this to observation 4. A good recorded version is better for VOD. So what do I mean by that? We were able to record in person, or not in person, like it records locally on each person's machine and then uploads that high def version after the recording's done. What that left us with was an amazing edited material. This is, if you're curious about it, I just accidentally purchased a full year of it. I meant to purchase it per month, but that's okay. So Riverside FM, which is primarily like a podcasting thing, tool set. The amazing quality of the 1080p output with everybody's camera and no glitching and no dropping off, even when they were shaky in, while we were streaming, the end product looked great. So I think, it was highly praised. The quality of things was highly praised. There are people calling it like praised like a radio drama, praised like just praise for its visual editing and all that quality. The tool set does a lot of that for me. So I'm likely to, I bought Riverside, so for a reason, I'm likely to go with recording in there directly, recording and streaming out of Riverside. I might stream using OBS and just draw screens around Riverside. That's probably what I'm going to do at first, just to make sure we get it all right. But yeah, that's what we're doing. So what I observed there is that we can't. There'll be certain games that are games first. I think every game's a game first. I should back up on that. Every game we play on here is a tabletop role-playing game. We get that. We're playing for the players in the audience. My Friday game, I've always said, this is a game people pay for. I ask, in full transparency, I ask $7 for the players each per week for the game, which is quite a bit lower than the standard rate on startplaying.games. Part of the discount is they're willing to stream with me. I'm not as concerned about the quality of the output of that game, because it's not necessarily intended to be... the quality of the recording or the stream is what I mean, not the quality of the game, but like I'm not as concerned with the end product matching a certain standard. But my standards for like Pendragon and such are going up a bit. And what does that mean? I want to attack sloppy etiquette. laziness sometimes that comes with what people bring to the table in the games. And this should be said about all role playing, right? Because I think it has impacts on, if you get a bunch of guys sitting around a table, they're already came in, they're yawning and complaining about how tired they are before you even start the game. You're bringing the wrong energy to it. It only gets worse when you're trying to stream and record something. Like if you got people focusing on their phones, missing beats, yawning as big as they can, showing up late or no showing, mute and mic controls a big one. It's been one of my personal peeves, and I actually parted ways with a player who couldn't figure out their audio. It just got to the point where it was taking away more than it was giving, because at the end of the day, the games that we stream are streams. The streams first. They have an audience. They also have players, and we want it to feel like a game to the players, but not at the cost of not being able to give the audience a good experience as well. And I want the players to think in terms of having an audience to watch, because that's what we're doing. We're not, if we were just going to play a game, we'd just go record it and put I know a lot of podcasts are that way, right? Where it's more like you're like a candid fly on the wall listening in. I have no problem with those. And a lot of those are kind of how we started. But I want to move up more into like the drama side of it, and really kind of make these dramatic events, because in my opinion, after 4 chapters of the Salisbury game, the best moments were those dramatic ones, where everyone's on board. So I'm gonna be attacking sloppy etiquette. When I say that, I mean I'm just going to be giving people, just raising the concern at first, and then warning, and then I'm not afraid to part ways with someone probably as cleanly as I can. But if you're taken away, if you're not able to contribute, I get it. Life's busy. Sometimes people just don't have the headspace for it. But it's got to be, what made Crown of Thorns so brilliant, in my opinion, aside from Matthew Dawkins being amazing, obviously, what made Crown of Thorns so brilliant, though, was Matthew was dialed in, and all 4 players were dialed in. There were no distractions. Probably because we knew we had the gentleman gamer running a game for us, and we all wanted to make sure we showed our very best. But that's important, man. Like, games should be like that in general, especially stream games. Like, we just really need to put aside the things that are distracting us and show up 100% while we're playing. And that doesn't mean only when you're on screen. If there's a vignette, really show the GM and everybody that you care, you're interested. Now, I do agree with the philosophy that the GM needs to do their absolute best to give people must-see TV, right? I get that that's important as well, when it comes to these actual plays. But also, I think we lean too heavy on the GM doing everything. I think the players also need to show up. If the players show up and the GM doesn't, it's on the GM. If the GM shows up and the players doesn't, it is on the players. If the players are dragging their feet, or they're barely paying attention, you're not doing everything you can to make that game as good as it can be, right? And if you're bored, why should the audience watch it? Those are my thoughts, and I've been thinking a lot about that. Like, I don't struggle with that compared to most games. I really don't. But I have observed some falling off on the focus when we sit down to play these games. and it's tough. It's sort of like a double kick in the face, because it already sucks when that happens and you're the GM. It double sucks when you're like trying to put something together like a stream, and you invite one of these, a cast member or a player to your game. They're filling a spot now and they're dragging their feet. I would equate that to like you're in a band and your bassist shows up drunk and he's just trying to get with the girls every time you go to play, and everyone else is trying to make it somewhere with the band. You know what I mean? That's the exact vibe of that style. And we all have tired nights. So I'm not going to belabor this point anymore, but it's big enough now where I think after Crown of Thorns, I'm like, I want to chase that level of quality in everything I do. There will be things that have stronger exceptions. The Friday game is a paid game. I still have similar expectations for it, but not necessarily in the realm of like getting the best acting or getting the best, that stuff has, there's a stronger grace. Do I expect them to show up, bring their A game? Yeah, and to be honest, a lot of them do. So, I haven't been suffering their lack of paying attention, and so I'm going to go ahead and absolve the Friday group and say they've been exceeding expectations for a group that was almost entirely random to begin with, like people I didn't know. It's been amazing to get to know those guys, and I think that's why we're continuing even though Ninteli's legacy concluded. Yeah, and none of us are professionals. The Sombruja just said we're not professionals, but we do our best. Yeah, even the other games, I'm not looking for a professional. I will settle with trying really hard to make something good, and I think it's obvious when that happens. So yeah, those are the key points there. So when I say attacking quality, Pendragon's going to proceed with the people it proceeded with. I will close out the Great Pendragon campaign. I will do it with this group. Whatever games last, they last. I expect Salisbury will to some capacity all the way to the end. I think Somerset might, and I do believe the Friday group's still on board. So unless there's some curveball, we should be 3 games with maybe hiccups like this, where one group goes, yeah, we're going to play something else for a little while. I think that's okay. We'll just skip. I think Salisbury, I want to play through. They are the right out of the book Great Pendragon campaign, so I'll probably play with them, and they're the flagship, so they'll be through the whole duration. But if there's a period of time where Tuesday or Friday wants to sit out one 10-year period of the game, that works for me. I talked about trying to speed things along, by the way, getting those games down to 2 games a year, just so we can close out the Great Pendragon campaign in 2 years. I'm kind of softening it a little bit to 2 and sometimes 3. I'm okay with it going past 2 years if it makes sense, and we can always skip some certain amount of years if we feel like we need to just get there. There's periods like Tournament or Romance and Tournament are good periods to skip certain portions of events. So we will see. But overall, this is still a Pendragon shop. We still play a lot. It's my favorite game of all time. But we are doing different. Maybe that's observation 5, is Pendragon doesn't get the views. It's just what it is. We get okay views sometimes, but that, odds are when I close out the Great Pendragon campaign, I will not be a primarily Pendragon actual play producer. We're already diversifying into one of my favorite, the longest favorite game of all time, which is Vampire. We played some Delta Green. The ones that hit, we played some Daggerheart. The ones that hit, we'll be coming back for more. and we're going to do some creative stuff. You might see more shorts on here. You will see more shorts on here. 3 to 5 episode things. A lot of them won't be run by me. Some of them will. But that's what we're doing. So, other ideas in the head, Mark and I have been talking for a long time about a dragon game. We'll see if this works, but I think we're on the same page here. We want to do a game set through 4 periods of time in a world where it's almost like the mythical age, where dragons are all sort of independent and they're almost revered like demigods. And you would be young wormlings in that point, all part of the same hatch nest, of different chromatic and metallic dragons. And then through that story, you would age, and more of the plot would unreveal. We've got a great idea for a 4 arc of that game. We were originally going to run it as a start playing .game cooperative game, but I pitched it to Mark just today, so it's not set in stone. But I did pitch it to Mark as, what if we did it as a co-stream? We stream at the same time, both our channels, 2 different games. People can always watch the VOD after if they missed it for the other game. And then every once in a while, we would bring the full group together. And we could have 4 to 5 players each. We could do it Act 1 and then put it on ice for a little bit and come back for Act 2. We are still considering that. Just today, we threw into a curveball into that and said, what if we use Daggerheart rather than D&D? I mean, does it have the species for dragon and such? No. But it's very easy to work in Daggerheart as a system. And it's quite a bit more narrative than D&D is, which makes the outside of combat and outside of dungeon delving more interesting. Because honestly, a game about dragons isn't going to be about dungeon delving. So I bring that up to say we might have more news on that soon. And it might be moving to a streamed game rather than something we just pay to play or get paid to play. On that note, we are also looking at a Vampire of the Dark Ages big game with a monthly fee. So I want to caveat this with TBD. I think we've shared a bit about it for this one. This will not be stream oriented. At least, we might build some little streams around it, little shorts to better describe the area we're playing in and what we're doing. But at the end of the day, what we're looking at here is a game that would run weekly with a fairly big cast. And when I say run weekly, three of every 4 weeks or 3 weeks a month, you would play a dragon. Dragon. I'm tired. You would play immortal, and eventually a vampire. In a Dark Ages period, I'm trying to be as vague as I possibly can. There would be scenes based around things happening, and we would organize players into these scenes. So you might only participate in 1 or 2 scenes a week for an hour apiece. So an hour here, but there'd be a 4-hour window, and you can role play with other players and have little side scenes if you want. But it would be a bigger game, not quite a LARP, kind of like a mixture between a LARP and a... We've done this. It's a server-oriented game. It's kind of like West March's or if you played on like add-on chat games, kind of that vibe too. We fought, to give credit where it's due, there was a guy that ran a server called Robyad in Cary. A lot of these ideas ran quite smoothly on his server. What didn't run smoothly, we understand, because we all played there. That's where a lot of us migrated from, and where a lot of us know each other. So we feel really enabled to do this well. Then every fourth week, we would actually have more of a LARP style court, and that would be where players could come in. The monthly fee is going to be not so bad, tentative. We're trying to make it, I don't even want to name a number because then we'll be held accountable to it, but we're trying to make it much cheaper than paying for a week-to-week game. This would be more in the vein of like a monthly, but we'll see. One of the things about a project like this is it's a lot of effort. So we'd be looking at probably 8 to 9 hours of work each a week for 3 weeks, right? And then 8 to 9 hours of setup for the LARP and running our court, and then running the court. So let's say we made $500, right? But we put in 36 hours of work. That would be $500 each. It'd only be what, like $13 an hour? Did I do that right? I realize it's not the worst for a passion game, but it is a lot of work. But we really like the idea of it. So we'll be back with more on whether or not that's going to happen. In addition to that, I've been throwing around an idea of a D&D game running through the OSR material. Not OSR material, the D&D Zero material. OD&D material, but with some modern twists and a performative focus. So it'd be more like a modern dramatic sort of game. That's a TBD as well. I think that covers everything we're looking at now. But one of the things you might see is if we get a strong reaction to something, we will focus more on that. I think it's only fair. Does that mean we won't focus on Pendragon? Not necessarily. I think there's room on Friday to ask the question of if something else is sparking really well. It's like, do you guys want to look at that instead? If their answer is no, guess what? It's a paid game. We'll do what they want to do. But, we'll see. For the 2 Pendragon main games, it's my personal desire to see those through. If they're not performing well, but other things are, I will just push them on a slightly faster timeline than originally expected. But I try to figure out what changes in quality I can do to bring them there. I do think that part of this is, and I'll put this as observation 6. We don't have true fans. We don't have a true fan base. How's that? What do I mean by that? We have a couple of people that have burned through every single streamed episode of Pendragon. We have hundreds and hundreds of hours. They're definitely in the realm of fans. But there's a couple of them. When you look at the Gentleman Gamer and what he brought, the amount of people that were there to praise what Matthew was doing, that's a fan base. Lore by Night, same thing. Pretty big fan base of people. We aren't there yet. That's part of our strategy with growing and diversifying and making these connections in the industry, is that will give us more influence. It'll give us more visibility. And once people see us, and if they see us doing a good job playing and running with these people, that will change things a little bit. So, I think that's it when it comes to what I'm at. Wow, almost an hour on the Bob Report. Okay, here's what I'll talk about next. I will talk about interviews and Legends Talk Live. So Legends Talk Live is a weekly show now, or it might not be every single week, but I'm going to aim for Wednesdays. It's going to be recurring. We're going to have guests in. When we have less to talk about, we won't do it weekly. We started week 1 with just Commodore Zen and I chatting, and it was good. It was a nice little sort of warm-up one. Last week we had the Stephen and Jeff from the Lollygaggers in to talk about spooky season, and their 2 created game design games. Huckleberry, which is just out on Backer Kit now, if you want to check that out. And We're in Danger, which was Jeff's baby. It's on itch.io, but he hopes to put a more structured release out in the future. So what's happening next? We have first week in November is Chris Clark on Castle Wolfmoon. So if you're familiar with that, that's the last unreleased module, if I have this correct, of Gary Gygax. Gary and Chris wrote it, and it never got released. And so there was some controversy with Luke Gygax. My understanding after watching a couple videos on it was Luke seemed to put into question whether or not this was really a lot of work done by his dad, or whether most of it was Chris's work. Chris came with the receipts, so to speak, and there was some litigation around it because it got ugly. But they were able to figure out something. I don't know if it was settlement, what it was. I'm not going to elaborate. All I know is that they found a way to get along again. Water under the bridge. Castle Wolfmoon will continue, and in Luke's statement on it, I wonder if I could bring it up. Let me just see. I see if I can. Not easily. What we do know is that Luke said he'd even be interested in writing for it. So whatever happened there, it seems like they've made up. And I think that's important because that was more than just a disagreement between people that didn't know each other. It sounded like, Chris and Gary for sure worked on stuff together. Like, their big thing, which never quite came into the real fruition that I think it deserved, is they made Legendary Adventures. Let's drag this on the screen. So this is a game that came out right before D&D 3rd edition. And it was like Gary, after he was let go of TSR, he's looking at a game that really was like moving away from what is the D&D mold. He was looking at a much more flexible system where you didn't have classes, you had orders. The damage system was a bit more innovative than just what you get. You could really die easy in that game. but yeah, they've definitely worked together. So I think it's funny that they just have Gary's name for designers. I think the book even says Chris Clark on it. Hack and Forge Productions. Yeah. Clark and Gygax were able to start a partnership in Hack and Forge Productions. I can't remember which one, but Chris is always like, he's Hack and I'm Forge, or I'm Hack and he's Forge. I can't remember what it was. But Hecka, not Hack. Hecka. Okay. But yeah, so anyways, they clearly work together. It's cool that they're, these friendships that were dwindled for a long time are able to figure stuff out and get back together. It's sad to see old friendships especially die. So, week 2 is David Larkins, and he'll be on to talk about Arthur. So we're gonna be chatting on some topics regarding King Arthur, potentially any new books or new product he wants to announce there if possible. Leave him the avenue. We'll see what he wants to do. As noted, he was on our stream already last month, so it'll be good to have David back. We still have a pretty big audience of Pendragon fans on here that at least chime in for the talks. And then the November guest for the podcast, TBD. It might be folks from the Unexpectables. It might be someone of a bigger name. I've got a few different things in the works. We will see what happens. In the new year, I'll be bringing in Professor Dungeon Master, who has agreed to come chat with me. So when the stars align there, expect that. That'll be exciting to see Dungeon Craft come in and share with us his whatever he wants to chat about. We'll put that on ice. We'll talk about it when it gets closer. I have a sense, but I don't want to tattle, so we'll hold off on that for now. Yeah, so that's my lineup in November. So November, in short, is, just looking at this real quickly, John Wick's canceled. We have 2 games. Everything kicks off the second week in November. That's to give me a writing week, by the way. So I can this week it's like polishing up NPCs, figuring out all the starting points in the, getting everything ready for Sunday the 9th and Tuesday the 11th. We have the Bridge Vampire the Dark Ages game, which I will eventually, or probably pretty quickly, I'll give that a name here. So expect that to come shortly. And then we'll be lining up for Paula Deming. I should probably shout out the Lollygaggers, because they joined us for Legends Talk Live, and also Jeff will be joining us on the Paula Deming game. So yeah, that'll be exciting. I think I have mostly passive listeners because it's a really late night. But if there's anyone live, I do want to give a couple minutes for questions before I go ahead and close the stream for tonight. I will give it a minute. I've had a couple people ask me about my like my like game load here. Am I really in a good place to do all this? I'm actually kind of being a little strategic if you think about it. So yes, I'm running the same 3 games I was running before. Keep in mind, yes, I'm running the Ubar game, but that's hanging out with friends. The interviews are a different thing, and they always will be, and I have to figure out how to make those work, and so I'm putting a little bit extra elbow grease into them. Most of these other little side projects, you'll note, not all of them involve me GMing, so I just have to do a little bit of production, and then they'll launch. There is a whole bunch on the back burner. Legend of the Five Rings, we will likely return to the same continuity where we did the Topaz tournament. But to be honest, the game didn't really catch an audience. So that's where it's tough, right? There has to be... I can't do a whole bunch of Pendragon things where there's just not a lot of audience. Like, I have to find some things with some audiences to offset those really long games. I will be experimenting more with pre-recorded, not on anything to do with Pendragon, really. More in those other options. You know, it's I've talked about In Nomine. It's another game that probably no one will watch, but I might do some creative pieces just for me. You know, the way someone might put out an indie album with their name on it, or you know, under a different name or whatever, or they might like participate in a movie, even though they're an A-list actor, they participate in an indie film. I might do some creative stirring of my own, but I will definitely hold off on that. You know, I need to be careful not to put too much happening at the same time. I will mention the Ubar game because I'm still not sure 100% what I'm going to show of that, but there is the First City game, which follows mortals in the age of the vampire First City under the rule of Cain. So if you're familiar with vampire mythology, that is a game. You can access it on my Patreon, and I share out, in case I don't post the video on Patreon, I always share out the playlist. So the moment it's on the playlist, which it goes up the same night because I'm not doing any editing on those currently anyways, you know, it goes up the same night. That's with my live group of friends. So again, I'm not worried about it trying to overly produce those games. They're meant to just be playing a game. They are cool. Like I enjoy the crap out of running it. And it's just it's a different vibe. But yeah, I am busy. I don't play any video games. I think that helps. But I probably run the majority of my life, the majority of what I do for recreation at this point is role-playing games. Have I looked at Draw Steel and what are my thoughts? Okay. I haven't dove deep, but how do I say this nicely? I think it's always good to try something before you judge it too much by its cover. But I know what Matt Colville's into, and I know what game he made with it, and it's just not my style. He doesn't want people like I used to have these same thoughts. Like, why are we always playing these shitty guys who fail all the time and they suck? And, you know, why aren't we ever playing the heroes of legend? I guess I've grown away from that as I've grown up. Like, I don't want to play an anime character a lot of the time. I want to play, or a superhero. I want to play a superhero in a superhero game. But even then, I prefer street level heroes that you know, have interesting challenges over like the cosmic characters. Um, yeah, that's true. Wasn't I just playing a video game before this? So Final Fantasy Tactics is my favorite game of all time, mostly from the story, but I also enjoy. I don't like to deep dive on mechanics. It doesn't interest me in anything. It's why I wasn't great at League of Legends. It's why I wasn't great at any of these games. I have a natural brain for like basic tactics, but I'm not a math guy that sits there and crunches the numbers and figures out the best thing to do. Nor am I look up all. It doesn't interest me enough to like look up all the guides. Or nowadays it's so much easier. You just watch videos on this stuff, but it's not my thing. But yeah, that's why I played Final Fantasy Tactics earlier. It's true, but that's like the exception, and I haven't touched that for like 2 weeks. I am reading a series right now. I have 4 of the books that I will show you. So this series is called The Swithin. It starts with a man of our kind, and it moves to the Sons of Constance. Then there's the Void Place, which I don't own currently. Then there's Flower of Chivalry. And then there's Wonderfully Wroth. So this series is an attempt to take a lot of the old, I guess, stories of Arthur and make them appealing to a modern audience by fleshing them out, filling in all the pieces that Mallory doesn't go over in his one line that, like, sort of these giant broad brushstrokes. This series tries to paint in between those strokes. And some of the decisions he makes are like little nuance they bug me in little nuance ways. Like, I don't like that he calls Aurelius Pendragon, because Pendragon is, I mean, it's just a weird feeling to have that be the case. But, you know, he made his name Pendragon, which is weird. He made Logris a city rather than London, it seems like, which is weird. But overall, brilliant. Like, this first book, it goes through like the supernatural birth of Merlin. And it really fleshes out his mom and makes you like his mom as a character. And at the same time, it's telling the tale of Vortigern, his sort of conniving rise to power, his conflict with his son Vortimer, and his sort of betting with the Saxons Hengist and Horsa, and eventually his wife Rowena, which is just awesome. I've never seen anything like that. The next book is The Sons of Constance, which is going to be about Uther and Pendragon, who are whisked away off the island to stay out of Vortigern's treachery, because Vortigern knows that they would, want the land. I think the Void Place is about Uther, so it's like Uther's rise and fall. The Age of Uther is the Void Place. The Flower of Chivalry, I can only assume, because I've read a few pages of it. I'm actually reading through some of these books simultaneously because I know like the back lore, so it's more like just for fun that I'm doing all this. But Flower of Chivalry is, it's about young Arthur for sure, and I assume that it's going to be a little bit about like anarchy from what I've read, where everyone's like, yeah, it shouldn't be long for a king, right? And there's some people that like seem to know that the king is going to be Arthur, and they're like, oh yeah, not long at all. And there's others that are like, perfect, yeah, not long at all, great. But that goes all the way to the sword being drawn, and then Wonderfully Wroth, which I'm trying to read right now just as a way of extra inspiration. Wonderfully Wroth is about from him getting the sword forward. The next book in the series after this, because there's 2 more books that have released, Weird. I don't see names here, but he's giving them names. Hold on. Swithin Book 6. Oh, it's called Gifts with Hard Swords, which is just, it's like a line from Mallory, but it's super cool. Looking forward to that one. And then after that is Book 7, which is his most recent one. And it is The Adventure God Will Choose, which deals with Balin the Savage. So, looking forward to getting through these. I haven't been an avid reader ever. I read slow. I get stuck. My ADHD kicks in. It could be a challenge, but I'm looking forward to really owning a book series and reading through it. And I'm still like an Arthur nut these days. So, yeah. All right. Well, that pretty much covers off, I think, everything I'm doing. The one other thing I'll add about like games I'm most interested in, the Delta Green experience we played through, I didn't touch on that. Trent did such a fantastic job with that, and the crew we had was great. I would play that again for sure. I would love to play it again. Whether it's worth producing, it hit under the episode 1 hit less than 100 in like a week, which is surprisingly bad. Not bad. It's just for an episode 1, it's bad, if that makes any sense. And for a system that's supposed to be really popular, so I was a little confused. I thought we put a pretty good production together there. That being said, we will probably find time for it again. Vampire for sure. We've got too much of a new group of Vampire fans. If you're one of my Pendragon fans that's wandered into this and you know nothing about Vampire and you don't think it sounds that interesting, I highly encourage you to take a look at it. What it does, similar to Pendragon, in my opinion, is it is one of the games that asks a lot of sort of philosophical questions. I think that's the one linkage. And if you play Dark Ages, it's actually closer to what you like than you'd think. It's just, rather than being humans, you're cursed beings of the night, with a lot of social intrigue and politics. So, and for those that are coming from vampires, similarly, if you like the political intrigue, the story of King Arthur and his knights, it's some of the best philosophical side of things you can find in roleplay. But alas, I'm not expecting to convert people away from the games they love. I am interested in continuing to push for new games on this channel and new experiences. I appreciate you watching. I'm going to just see if there's anyone in my friends list that's here that I can raid. I doubt it. It's so late. I don't want to raid a video gamer, even though we're video gaming. You know what? I'm gonna go to the Hello Variety Games. We're gonna raid Kitty Kate because she's always around this time of night, and yeah, she has good energy to her. So say hi to my friend for me, and we will talk to you soon. Thanks for watching the Bob Report. Expect more next month. Take care.